So this is my new project. I got an EZ Path Bridgeport lathe from some friends of mine that own CNC machine shop. They've gone predominantly with a different maker of CNC equipment. And then they converted this one from the old EZ Path control to a Centroid control. They did the install themselves. They got the equipment put in, and then they had one of the Centroid dealers come out to do the programming. What's interesting about this machine is it has electronic hand wheels already on it. The encoders were incremental and had TTL outputs, so they were compatible with the Centroid control. Another unusual thing about this machine is it's a gearhead machine with many different selections in the gearhead. So I think that's a little bit of a challenge to integrate. I'll show you the control cabinet. The cabinet was supplied by Centroid, pre-configured with the exception it had no VFD. And the spindle motor was replaced, has a brand new 7.5 horse WG motor, and the VFD is a Tico variable frequency drive. One of the issues when they got nearly completed with the conversion is when the VFD is running at say below 20 Hertz, although I've not witnessed this yet, the axis would act erratically when the spindle speed was commanded lower. So that's probably next on my list to do. What I've been doing the past few days is reconnecting these encoder hand wheels because they thought the hand wheel encoders because they thought that had something to do with the erratic axis behavior, when in fact it turned out to be or seems to be something with lower commanded speeds. I will say that Centroid Centroid support has been really good. They worked with me on some of the questions that I had about the software and upgrading the control, and since I'm new to Centroid, probably the newbie questions that they have to answer over and over and over again, but they're very good about that. So anyway, hand wheels are operational. The software has been upgraded in the control to the latest version. I created a macro for M30, something that I was used to as M30 shutting down the spindle when the program ended. A bit about me: I'm an electrician by trade. I have an basic electronics background. I'm not formally trained in electronics, but it's just always been my interest. And I've always been interested in CNC. I've just always been fascinated by machines controlled by computers. And I've always known about Centroid, but always felt it was out of the reach of an average individual. My friends that sold me this lathe gave me a wonderful deal on it. I'm not sure that I can afford to keep it when it's all done, but I have more projects than I know what to do with. I've got an Emco Turn 120 here. It's going to be next on the block, and ironically, it has a Centroid control on it. It's the generation before the all-in-one DC. It's got a servo IO3, I believe. And this machine resided at a college. They tried to do, it's in really good shape, but they tried to do the conversion themselves, and in my opinion they botched the conversion on the turret. Instead of driving it more traditionally the way the turret was designed, they tried to drive it directly from the back. Unfortunately, it's a worm that drove the turret tooling plate, and it's now gone, so I don't have much choice but to try and drive it from the back unless I can find another turret. This machine also has a Tico variable frequency drive, and for such a small machine, it's amazing to me that it has a gigantic motor. It's a 5 horsepower I think it's a Leeson motor, and so forth. So this machine, I'm pulling the control off of this one, and I'm going to transplant it to a machine that I've had for a little while, and I'll take you to that. I've had this machine for quite a while. Sorry about that. It's an Emco Turn 240, and this is my shop, my little machine shop. It's 5C collet capable. It has a diplomatic turret in it, and the collet closer and the chuck are hydraulically actuated, so that'll be interesting to work on. And it also has a power tailstock. So this is where that other Centroid from the Emco Turn is going to come. It's going to come to my 240 machine. It's a wonderful machine. It's only about 3 feet deep. It's only about 5 foot wide. I'm using this for my electrical enclosure because I just don't have the space to be able to back it away from the wall. So, and I've seen turning centers with the controls up above, so that's what's going to happen here. Also, I have a Dynamite DM 4400. This machine I converted a couple of years ago and upgraded from the old skip control Dyna to a flash cut control. I developed the operator control panel and so forth, and it works well. I recently moved, and for the last year plus I've been remodeling my home, so I haven't had a chance to do anything but other than set my machines in the shop, and I haven't had a chance to clean them up. They're full of dust from the remodel, and get the servo put back on the Z-axis on the DM4400. Also, I have this machine. It is a 10x54 Ganesh knee mill. It was a CNC mill. It came with a Mitutoyo Millstar 3 control. It was a bit of an odd duck. The one good thing about Mitutoyo USA is they used all off-the-shelf type CNC components. The servos are Glentex. The servo amplifiers are Glentex. The computer was a PC-based computer control. It used a Galil motion controller, an older one. It's no longer, well, they're all supported, but anyway, the software was odd. It was no longer supported. It didn't execute many of the G codes, and its conversational programming was a little bit archaic. So my hopes on this one is I'm going to try and use the all-in-one DC control from Centroid eventually to run it. That all-in-one DC control can support these servo amplifiers. It has built-in PLC. It has built-in spindle control. It has 3 servo amplifiers that can drive these servos, and it has enough I/O to drive a typical knee mill. And this also has a VFD. It's mounted on the back. It's a Hitachi VFD. So I think this is a wonderful candidate for the Centroid control. You know, I'm interested in Centroid because the prices seem quite reasonable. Actually, I think they're almost a bargain for what you get if you want to, you know, forego a lot of the bells and whistles and pendants and just use, say, a touchscreen computer. And they're very well regarded in the industry for their industrial controls. So that's the nickel tour around my shop and what I'm into, and I guess you can ride along with me to see how things work out on the Bridgeport EZ Path. If I can get the issue with the axis to act erratically, I will try and take a video of it and show it, and then you can ride along and see what we do to try and resolve the problem. I think it has something to do with this wiring from the control to the VFD, but we'll see, and maybe grounding issues. That's my first hunch. So anyway, enough about me. That's it, and see you on the next one.